In Proverbs it says, "In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. Be not wise in thine own eyes, but fear the Lord, and depart from evil." So it's a wonderful thing. Since I dedicated my life to the Lord has always given me the total for different things. Today I'm going to tell a few of the totals of what He has put in my heart at different times for different things. Not long after I dedicated my life, we had those old wooden plank pews at church, and our pastor had gone and found some at the Methodist Church in Dallas that were beautiful pews, and they were, I think she said $35 a piece. So she took up pledges at church to be able to buy the pews. I did not pledge because I had started paying my tithes, and each time I prayed that the Lord not let my tithe check bounce. I didn't keep records of my money in the bank. I just every time I wrote a check, I just deduct it in my mind. So fearing that I might have made a mistake, I just prayed each time that none of my tithe checks would bounce. Now I remember one time there, pastor had come to see me, and I got my mail out of the mailbox and opened it, and I started crying and kind of flipping through and crying. And she said, "What's the matter?" I said, "Nothing." She said, "Well, if you tell me, maybe I can help you." I said, "No, that's all right." And I just laid it aside. And I didn't tell my husband. I didn't tell nobody. I prayed, and I had it all straightened out the next day or two. anyway, anyway, after she took up those pledges, and I didn't pledge. The next day at work, the Lord spoke to me and told me to pledge $150 to pay it out at $15 a month. Oh my. So that night at church, I went to the pastor and said that I was going to pledge it, but I had to pay it out. Oh, Faith was so happy because she said, "That's my answer." I told the Lord if I didn't get an answer tonight, I wouldn't get the pews. So we got the pews, and oh, they were beautiful. Then we were going to have the air conditioning put in the church, and Lenny Weaver was the. Now I've told this story before on here, but I'm going to tell it again. Lenny Weaver was the women's leader, and I was the young people's leader, and we said we wanted $1 left in each fund when we got them paid for. And she had ordered candy for us to sell, and I had sold 250 cans. And then a lady called Sister Johnson wanting to know how much we owed on the pews. And she didn't know. She said they'd have to call back when her husband was there. But she called us to pray that somebody was interested. Then the pastor's husband went into a coma, and I stopped to talk to Mr. Mathis, who was the funeral director's wife, and tell her about Pappy. And she said, "Oh, honey, someone come by here selling candy for the church and said, my husband won't know what you owed on the air conditioners." The Lord dropped a total in my heart, and I told her, now, if they had paid that total that day, it would not have paid for the air conditioners. But see, the Lord knows what He wants. We went on and done what we could do with garage sales and different things. And one day he was driving, having his grandson out for a drive, and had his grandson to turn around and go back and get his check. He wrote the check for the amount I said. left $1 in the missionary, $1 in the CA. Then, when I was going to paint my house, a rent house, the Lord told me that I could pay $50. Nobody works that cheap. Nobody works that cheap. But yet the Lord sent two painters by there that took care of that problem, because as I got on the ladder, the painter come down the street and said, "Lady, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to paint this house." They said, "Lady, you can't paint this house. Come down off that ladder. You got your paint. I'll scrape this house. I'll scrape the house, and I'll caulk the windows, and I'll put two coats of paint on for $50. Now, that's a miracle. Then when I was going to buy my car, the Lord gave me the total for my car and the total I could pay to buy a car, and I got the car for that total. Everything, He gives me a total of what to do. One time He told me to pledge $50 on the bus, I believe it was, either the bus or the piano, I can't remember, at church. And I'd already pledged before, but He told me to pledge 50. I got home that day, and I was laying there when the phone rang, and it was a friend of mine. Her husband was in her brother, her son was in the Air Force in Colorado, and he was graduating from the Air Force. So she called and asked me, could I take her to the airport the following Sunday. And I told her I would. And I said, how you going? She said, well, I'm flying. And I said, well, I know, but I mean, what's it costing me? So she told me. I said, oh, that's too much. And so she said, I've already got this planned, and this is the way I'm going. I said, okay. She said afterwards that she was laying on the bed thinking about it, and she thought, Wanda wouldn't have told me to do that if I wasn't supposed to. So she called the airport, and they told her for the cheaper amount that she would have to come out that day, that Sunday, and change it. So she called me up. I had told her, why didn't she call Frontier? So she called me up, and she told me that Frontier said that she could, if she'd change it, from the other airline to that she would save so much. And so she said, can you take me out there? I didn't have the gas, but we prayed our way, and we went out there. And we got the money back, and she saved $100. So she bought me gas, which gas didn't cost very much at that time. She bought me gas, and she gave me $50. That was my pledge, brought to me that night after I pledged it that morning. Then another time at the church, the Lord told me to pledge $50. And I never pledged that I don't pay it, but I really didn't have it. But a friend of mine that I was raised up across the street from had never gone to church. As far as my knowledge, she'd never attended church. And she called me up one day and told me that she wanted to start the church and she wanted to start to mine. So her and her friend, she was 80-something years old, but she had a boyfriend. Her and her boyfriend came out to church. And knowing that they were coming, I fixed dinner. So After church, we came and we ate, and then her boyfriend got me aside and talked to me and said they were fixing to leave. And he said, I thought that old woman would pay that $50 pledge of yours. He said she didn't, so here, I'm going to pay the $50 pledge. And he gave me the money for my $50 pledge. So see, the Lord knows where his money is, and he takes care of every need. Just like the time that I went to the store and I had a little fender bender, had to spend a lot of money on it, and therefore I didn't have but $20 in my purse, and I needed items, and I got the items that I needed, and after I got the items that I needed, and I got up to the counter, I was talking to the Lord all the way about my $20 that I was going to have to go to the bank and go ahead and write a check. It was a few days before my uh, check come in. I knew it was going to just about break me, but I needed to do it. Got up to the counter, $19.70. I handed her my 20. She handed it right back to me. And I said, what? And I looked behind. She looked behind me, and I looked behind there. There was a young man. I said, you pay for my items? He said, yes, ma'am. I said, what is your name? He said, James. I said, let me hug you. And I hugged him and thanked him. Then on Easter of 2014, I had gone to the dollar store to buy the stuff for the Easter at church, and I spent too much. I bought things I didn't have to have, and I got mad at myself, and I was so mad at myself. So I went on over to Walmart, and got what I had to have, and different things that I had to have, sugar and shortening and flour, and the different things I had to have on hand because of what the Lord lays on my heart to do. So I had gotten it, and I got up to the counter, and there was a little black lady that was checking out in front of me. So she checks out, and then I check out, and when I get all checked out, the the girl hands me my receipt. Or what? No, she didn't give me the receipt. That's what it was. No, I didn't know how much it was. She didn't give me the receipt. She gave it to the other lady. The little black lady had paid for my items, and I know it was a lot because I got shortening and sugar and flour. I got expensive things, and bacon and the different expensive things, powdered sugar, different things that I had to have, and she paid for it. Isn't that beautiful? That's what he does. That's what he does. And he'll give you the total of any time of what you need. Just trust him and obey him and let him take care of it all. He owns the cattle on the hill and the little taters under the hill. Anyway, love him and so happy on my road to heaven. I wouldn't take nothing for my journey now.